Requiem behind closed doors as a part of Summer Games Fest / Playdays, whatever you want to call it, the thing Jeff Keighley runs. And
we know for this game you can play in first or third person mode.
That's first thought, wow. In case you somehow missed it, this was revealed at Summer Games Fest. They had a little fake out where they said, oh, we'll show more when time is right,
I got
whatever,
when
don't
I did that.
come at
I was
us.
pissed.
And then like 5 minutes later, they actually revealed the full trailer and showed a lot of little bitty things that got old school fans of the franchise excited, but we didn't really get to see an extended look at gameplay. We saw like some little snippets, but not much. However, at Summer Games Fest Playdays, I actually got to go to a behind closed doors preview event where Capcom showed us about like 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay of what appeared to be the opening sections of the game. Now, unfortunately, they are not sharing the B-roll or the actual gameplay that we saw. Maybe they do end up showing.
We'll probably see it during Gamescom in August.
It later, my guess would be around Gamescom, maybe right after that they'll share it with the public. But as of right now, when I'm filming this video, there are no plans to share it with the public that we are aware of. So I'm going to describe it as best I can, and we're going to use B-roll from the trailers and maybe some references to older Resident Evil games. So you'll just have to use your imagination. But there's some big reveals in this that are kind of crazy. The first thing we saw was the new protagonist, Grace Ashcroft, trying to break free of her restraints on a gurney. This was shown actually in that initial reveal trailer as well. And immediately, the improvements to the RE engine are readily apparent. You know, RE engine hair is very, very unique, and so it's really clear when it's an RE engine game versus not. And in this case, I think it still is there. There's something about it that just is very, very unique and doesn't really look like any other engine. But where massive improvements have been made are in the little bitty animation details. Like every little element has been carefully animated, even down to like when Grace is laying on the gurney upside down and she's breathing heavily. Her stomach is not just like going in and out, breathing like, you know, something basic. It's actually moving and contorting with the muscles contracting like asynchronously, just like when an actual human being breathes. It's like little bitty details that just make it look way more believable, way more realistic. Little twitches in the eyes or gritting of the teeth and the cheeks. Everything is just so finely detailed. It's really impressive. And that also applies to monsters and things, which we'll get to in a minute, because damn. The other thing I will say in this opening sequence is the voice actress. This has been debated since the trailer dropped. Some people have alleged maybe it's the original voice actress for Alyssa. Maybe it's one of the like voice actresses who played Claire. Like people have gone back and forth on it, trying to figure out who this is. I actually think it sounded a lot like Ashley Johnson, personally, specifically the gameplay portions, like when she was grunting, running away from the monster, we'll discuss in a minute, things like that. It sounded like Ashley Johnson, which, if you're not familiar, she played Ellie in The Last of Us. Very well, maybe somebody else. Either way, whoever the voice actress is doing a fantastic job. I mean, it's just stellar world-class work as far as I'm concerned from what I've seen so far. They're doing very, very good. So rest assured, it's going to be solidly voice acted either which way. Whoever's performing Grace is doing a great job. But regardless, after Grace breaks free of her restraints, you open up into the early section of the game where you're exploring what could be a house or a hospital. It's not clear very intentionally. It's very vague where you are or what's going on. But it was very reminiscent of Resident Evil 7. And that's what everybody around me also said when we were like funneling out of the little theater after we saw this. Everybody's like, it felt very much like 7. It felt like 7 again, didn't it? And I think that's a good thing. Personally, I love 7. 7 is it's what kickstarted the modern era of Resident Evil and kind of introduced it to a whole new generation of gamers in a lot of ways after some rough games and like movie attempts and stuff. So 7, for a lot of people, they love it dearly. And I'm one of those people. And so to see that it feels and plays much closer to 7 than 8, I personally appreciate. 8 experimented with some bigger levels, with more open-ended design, with some like sort of open world stuff, but not really. Like it was just very, very different. And especially like the later sections, which turned into like a weird Call of Duty mission, I just didn't connect with. So I'm excited to see that they're kind of returning to form and going back to the basics with survival horror. What they described it though as was as addictive horror, or horror exploring addiction. It was kind of tough to get exactly what they were trying to describe, because I think there was a bit of a language barrier, at least with our description that we received. But either way, it seems like they're exploring some fun ideas, and 7 is certainly where they're focusing a lot of their inspirations. Everything from creeping through the corridors, crouching around looking for the key or the fuse to put in the fuse box to unlock the door. All of that will be reminiscent not just of 7, but of older Resi games as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of immediately, like, the gut feeling it gave, it felt like 7 much more than anything else. What didn't feel like 7, though, was the introduction to the first spooky, ghouly, ghosty monster. I won't spoil exactly how it's introduced, because if you play the game, I want that jump scare sort of thing to be something you get to experience for the first time, because it was very cool and very well done. But once you see the monster, it's a very different kind of thing than we saw in 7 traditionally with the family, and it's closer to like typical like horrifying monster. Very, very distended and macabre and falling apart. Looks like a Bloodborne boss, basically, is what this monster looked like. But she started like chasing this humanoid monster filled with bulbous pus-filled whatever the hell's. She started following us through the house. And what was crazy is like the monster was big enough that she didn't fit through the doorways, and watching like the camera pan back and seeing the monster like contort to squeeze through the doorway was really, really cool. It's kind of like in, I think it was It Chapter 2, the like movie. There's that one portion where Beverly goes back to her childhood apartment, and then the old lady turns into a monster and kind of starts chasing her and squeezing under the banister and stuff. It felt like that. It was a similar vibe to that monster, to this one. This one's much more grotesque and stuff, but it was a similar vibe. But regardless, you're running away from this monster. It's able to jump into the ceiling and climb through the ceiling. It's able to like affect the lights and things. But this is where this like the next really crazy impressive thing stood out to me, which was the sound design. I'm not sure if it's just because we were in like a purpose-built theater that was filled with like a beautiful micro LED screen in front of us that was like 15 feet wide, and then surround sound speakers that again were purpose-built and purpose-calibrated for what we were doing. But whatever the cause, it was so immersive. Like every little gurgle, crackle, clenching of the monster's teeth, everything was recorded and was very well balanced and just extremely immersive. It's very, very well done. Again, the sound design in horror games is crucial. It's crucial in horror movies.
True.
It's just a very important element. Like the visual aspect of horror is important, but the sound is often what pierces deep into your bones.
Does it sound like
so you need to have it done really well. And in this case, they've done a very good job of it as far as I can tell.
Capcom is just
definitely a game you're going to want to play with surround sound or, you know, certainly a nice pair of headphones if you have them. But that being said, we got to see some of the first kind of waves of gameplay where you're going and you got to find the key to unlock this door, and then within that room is a fuse, and you need that fuse to unlock the fuse box and to power the door back up so that you can squeeze under it and escape the monster before you get to the next area, which has its own set of obstacles as you work your way through. And again, it felt very much like 7. Now, there's a lot we did not see. There's a lot. We saw the gameplay go through running away from the monster as it's chasing you, hiding, stealthing around, and then getting through that door with the fuse, and then the demo was pretty much over. But there's a lot we did not see. We didn't see Raccoon City. We didn't see exploration of other areas.
Yeah,
we saw a very tight corridor area that was again very similar to the opening house section in 7. That being said, at the very end of the demo, we all are like, wow, that was very good. We're laughing and like, oh, that was crazy. That was crazy. And then the demoist is like, hold on, there's one more thing. And we see them hit escape, or not hit escape, but like in the game footage we're watching, the person hits escape, they pull open the menu, and I was like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Are they just gonna show us it supports DLSS or something? Like, what are they doing? Why are they going into the menu? And they go down to like view options, and they toggle it to third person.
Third person, yeah.
This game will support a full run through in third person or first person, and you can even hot swap between the two at any point using that menu. So if you want to play your Resident Evil games in third person, you can do that, or first person, you can do that, or if you want to just do the boss.
They did these with the modern day 7 and 8, where later on they went back and added a third person mode if you wanted to. So it looks like they're just going to bake it right into the game at the release, which is awesome. I love playing. Yeah, actually, I don't mind playing in first or third person mode. I prefer third, but with the Resident, the new like 2, 7, and 8 with the first person mode, I didn't mind it at all.
Boss fights in third person, but then everything else in first. You can do that. You can pick and choose. It's fully supported natively. It's very, very seamless. Like you just hit the toggle and it swaps. It's very cool. So I'm here for it. It's not quite as silky smooth as like some games, even like Bethesda games where you tap on the right stick or something and then it pulls back to third person. You do have to go into a menu. But seeing that they now are supporting that fully throughout the entire game, that's pretty damn cool. But overall, what I saw was very impressive. I mean, the other thing that I think is worth mentioning is that the ray trace lighting, which is another one of the overhauls that the RE engine has seemingly received, makes a difference here. I mean, notably, there was one moment where there's sort of a hallway corridor similar to this. Like imagine there's a big, scary, horrifying monster standing in this little doorway, this threshold right there. And then there's a massive puddle of blood right in here, okay? Massive puddle of blood because something may or may not have happened there. With traditional lighting techniques and rendering techniques, you would just kind of have the monster lit from whatever the key light is. In this case, there was a light right above the doorway, like right there, shining down on top of the monster. And you would just have like harsh light on the top and then dark underneath. But with ray trace lighting, what they're able to do then is have the light bounce off of the blood puddle and then back up on the underside of the monster. So as it's walking in this bloody puddle and the blood is rippling underneath its toes, you actually see the underlighting of a faint red glow from the ray traced lighting that is picking up basically and reflecting red light back up on the underside of the monster. And it makes one hell of a difference. I'll tell you what, it really, really does. I know we all joke and meme that like, give me better frame rates over ray tracing any day. And I think for a lot of people that is the case. They would just much rather have that. But a lot of that is because we haven't seen games really implement ray tracing in significantly transformative ways. You know, you see ray tracing in Cyberpunk with, path tracing or something. And you're like, oh, I get it. Yeah, if I had a supercomputer, I could understand why that would be cool. But for the average consumer, it's just not that practical. But in this case, it is actually just an immediately very clear, visible change that is significantly better than previous iterations of the RE engine. The RE engine, of course, still has like its very unique hair system that's just very recognizable. It's not bad. It's just very, very unique. I can't even put my finger on it, but it's very unique. It still looks like a Resident Evil game. And like the wood floors look great. The wallpaper looks great. The monster looks horrifying. And that fine animation detail not just applies to like the characters and the NPCs and cutscenes, but it also applies to the monsters with like their eyes twitching and their mouths twitching and the blood dripping from its teeth very, very carefully. And each one of the little pustules like quivering.
There's a theory that when we go back to Raccoon City, I saw this in the YouTube channel Resident Evil. I'm a huge fan of them. They're awesome, dude. If you're like a Resident Evil fan like me, like a huge one, and you haven't seen their channel, go check it out. It's all things Resident Evil. They live stream all the time. It's called Residents of Evil. But their theory is, and it sounds kind of like it could be true, that the T-virus, that outbreak in Raccoon City, plus the nuke that hit Raccoon City to destroy it, their theory is that the nuke and the T-virus combined. So you got like a nuclear radioactive T-virus, and then all these monsters left over from it. And it's been 30 years, so they're all mutated and grotesque and just horrifying looking. So that's their theory. I kind of like it. Like, radioactive T-virus combined and just creates these fucking gnarly, disgusting looking monsters. So if that's the case, I'm all for it.
And pulsating as damage is dealt to it or as it pushes through a doorway. Like every little aspect of it is so well done, and they've put a lot of effort into it. I mean, they've not been slacking for sure, and I'm here for it. Just across the board, it looked really, really good, and it got me really excited for what they have to bring to the table. I also, because I'm me, I was looking for any red flags, any weird things with like performance or hitching or frame drops or overuse of upsamplers and stuff, upscalers rather, and I didn't see any of it. The game looked very sharp, very, very clean. They wouldn't tell us, of course, what hardware they were running, if this was a console version or a PC version or what.
probably
But what we
super
saw was
PC
very, very
version.
polished and looked really, really good. Again, it was on like a 15-foot wide screen that was like full 4K. Like if there were problems, we would have been able to see it. And I'm honestly,
Definitely on like a
I'm
super
hard pressed
PC.
to come up with anything. It just looked great. So initially I was like kind of suspicious and skeptical of releasing in February of next year. I was like, yeah,
Nah,
that'd be
I believe 'em.
ideal, but what are the odds you're going to have to delay it? Because
They won't. Not Capcom.
that's the goal, but development
They get
issues
shit
or whatever.
done.
But no, after seeing it in this behind closed doors preview demo thing, I'm a believer. I think that they actually are on the right track, and
Yeah.
I think they'll be able to hit
Capcom
that.
don't mess
if
around. They
This
get
is
shit
truly
out
indicative
all
of
the
the
time.
quality that they've been able to hit. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
They perfected
As always,
developing
I
Resident
can't
Evil
wait to
games.
talk about it more. I hope they make this gameplay demo available to everybody relatively soon so you can see what we saw, because it's super, super cool and they should be proud of it. And I think it is only a matter of time. I think they will release it to the public probably in like a month or two, but time will tell. But as always, if you have any questions about what we saw, just ask away in either the comment section. If I see it, I'll reply, or over on Luke Stevens Live, my live channel where we stream and hang out. You can just pop into chat and ask me a question about it. And if I can answer, I will answer. But all told, it was really, really cool. It was an awesome time. Thank you, Capcom, for seeing that. And yeah, I think this could be a pretty special game for early next year.
Yeah,
so
this game's gonna
buckle up.
fucking kill.
Thank you for
It's gonna be
watching,
awesome.
everybody. Until next time, hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.